Welcome to episode 192 of the Left Behind Game Club. This week, we play Brutal Legend. Let's get right into it.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Jacob McCourt, and today I have two friends with me. The first friend, you know her, you love her. Her name is Katie Lesperance.
Hello. Ready to drive?
Oh, hi.
Listen to some heavy metal.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I've got my what are these called?
God.
My devil horns up?
Yes.
My devil horns are up. Let's go.
Discord does a crazy thing when you put devil horns on, apparently. We just learned something.
The audio listeners can't hear it, but if you put devil horns up on a Discord call, it shows you some disco lights. So make sure to do that in the future.
I feel like there should be flames, but that's okay.
It might be a Logitech thing, actually, but now we know this for the future. Our second friend, who's also holding up devil horns from Gamerheads Podcast, it's Roger Reichardt. Hello.
Hi. I'm not evil enough, I guess, or not cool enough, one of the two, because it wasn't doing any effects for me.
I think you're plenty evil. I think you're deliciously evil, honestly.
Thank you.
If folks don't know what you are all about and what Gamerheads is all about, could you enlighten us?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to, because then there's this mysterious of who I am.
Let's keep going.
No, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. My name is Roger. I run the Gamerheads Podcast. We've been around since 2016.
Crazy.
Yeah. Right before the Switch was released, honestly. Don't go back and listen to those episodes, because one, I rip on the Switch, and two, the audio is terrible. So don't listen to those episodes. But you can listen to new episodes at our website at gamerheadspodcast.com. We do reviews and we do interviews and, we do the thing. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Go give us a listen, I guess.
I love it. You guys write a lot. You have a lot of folks. You have a great podcast. So if folks want to check it out, please do that. If you want to find the connecting point on Gamerheads, I was on the show in January of 2024 of this year. If you're listening to this when it was originally released, and did a little video game trivia episode. So if you want to hear Roger and I talk some more after hearing this, you can go there. We also did the video game trivia panel together at PAX West. So lots of Roger Jacob connection points.
That's right. And there's pictures of us arm in arm, standing there with my arm around your shoulder and your arm around my shoulder. So it shows that we're friends. We are friends. And I should say we are friends. I also did record the Hopvine. Was it at Hopvine? Was that the place it was at?
Yes, you did. So there's video evidence of video game trivia in Seattle when we did it in a bar. And then furthermore, if you listen to our PAX West episode, there is a bonus podcast at the end of that 2-hour podcast where I passed around a microphone in Seattle, and Roger's on that too. So lots of Roger Jacob connection points.
That was a really fun
Roger,
time.
Thank you for being on the show today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Little housekeeping before we get started. A couple things that we'll need you to do if you're listening to this podcast. Do us a favor, if you've been listening to the show for a long time, and I know there's a lot of you that haven't done this, but feel free to leave us a review on your podcasting platform of choice, because it really helps. Send this podcast to a friend, because that's how people hear about brand new podcasts, even though we've both been going for 7+ years now. And you can follow us on Blue Sky. That's going to be, just search up Left Behind Game Club and you'll find us there. We're going to end up posting more of our updates there, because Twitter is a hellscape. Much like the hellscape in this video game. Today we are talking about Brutal Legend. It is a video game developed by Double Fine Productions and published by Electronic Arts, Double Fine on PC. Released on PS3, Xbox 360, Windows, Xbox One, Xbox... It says S here, Xbox One X and S, OS X, and Linux. Originally released on October 13th of 2009. We start the show with our fast pitch, which is a 1-sentence pitch about the video game that we are about to talk about. Katie, I feel like I'm going to throw to you first on this one.
I actually have one. It's a miracle.
Hey!
It's a 17-year-old boy Tim Schafer's fever dream.
Good. Excellent. Roger, do you have one?
I do.
As the guest, I feel like I have to ask you second.
Yeah, sure. I have a product of its time.
Ooh, good, excellent. And then I'm just going to describe it as plainly as I can. This is a heavy metal RTS hack and slasher. Just describe the words of what this game is. Let's start by quickly talking about our history with Double Fine. We've talked about some other Double Fine games on this here podcast. But Roger, what's your history with Double Fine, the studio?
Yeah, so
Big laugh.
I don't have much history with Double Fine. Honestly, I don't. I know. I haven't played a lot of their games. I will say this: I do remember when this game came out, and I was like really excited to play it because I do like Jack Black. I like Tenacious D. I'm a big fan of their music, and when this game came out, I was really excited to play it. I never played it though, until you asked me if you want to be on this podcast, and I was like, sure. It gives me an opportunity to play this game. So like really, I mean, I played a little bit of Psychonauts, but not anything to be like, oh yeah, I just don't have a lot of experience with Double Fine, so.
Katie, you're a bigger fan of Double Fine than that, I think.
I think I'm in the middle of the three of us, most likely. I played OG Psychonauts, really liked it, tried the second one, and got hung up a few hours in. You get the campsite. I'm like, there's another hub that I have to explore. That's too many hubs. Put me on the missions. That's what people want to do in Psychonauts. Anyway, I'll come back to it eventually. I've played Broken Age also, just like the adventure game, point and click, and we did a podcast about that. Grim Fandango.
We sure did. That's episode 83. Yes.
Look at you. Bam.
I'm ready.
I think that's it. I think those are the 3.5 that I had played so far before Brutal Legend. But I always wanted to play Brutal Legend because, like you said, Jack Black. Who doesn't like Jack Black?
Yeah.
I'm like,
exactly.
oh, this sounds like so many things that I enjoy, so I've always wanted to play it.
I guess you're right
I did play Grim Fandango. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there. When you mentioned that, Katie, I was like, oh yeah, I did play that game too. So I take it back.
Not the easiest adventure game, and
No.
it's not one that I would give to someone who if someone's like, I don't know about adventure games, I wouldn't be like, play Grim Fandango.
Exactly.
No, but yeah, that's Grim Fandango.
I think I was initially supposed to be on that podcast and then said, nope, not for me.
Yep, that's correct.
That is correct. That sounds like something I would do. I guess I'm the biggest Double Fine fan here. I'm a huge fan of Psychonauts. I loved what else have they done? My brain is Broken Age, obviously. Costume Quest is something that I go back to and play on most Halloweens. And the second one, I think Psychonauts 2 is like one of the best platformers made in the last 10 years. We have covered Costume Quest on episode 16. We've covered the DLC Grubbins on Ice on episode 53. We covered Broken Age on 83, Psychonauts on 104, and Grim Fandango on 156. I'll make sure to link all those in the description. And I've always wanted to play this video game. So much so that I put it on, usually every year I go, I'm going to play 3 video games from my backlog and commit to these 3, and I will play them. And this is one of the ones from this year. And boy, I have some thoughts about this one, as I'm sure we all do. Roger, you said product of its time. But before we do that, I want to hear how you played it. I played it on a combination of Series X and Series S, and I would not recommend playing it on Series X because if you have a weird thing, there are rhythm game mechanics in this thing, and if you have a television like an OLED and an Xbox, there's no way to tune the timing on those rhythm games. So on X with Frame Boost, it becomes impossible to do those rhythm game mechanics. So I'd probably recommend not playing it on X just for that reason. Roger, how'd you play this one?
I played this on my Steam Deck.
On your Steam Deck. How'd it run on Steam Deck?
Yeah, it was okay. It was pretty good. So here's the thing. Like, this is when I was laid up with my hip surgery. So I was like, this is a perfect time to buy a Steam Deck. So I bought a Steam Deck.
Hell yeah.
And then I was really excited to see that this was like $13 on Steam. And I was like, oh, that's super cheap. I'm just going to buy it. So yeah, I played it on Steam Deck. It played fine. It was fine. I did end up playing.
How was the frame rate?
It was fine. I mean, but here's the thing. Like, I'm a very forgiving person. So there's probably people out there who be like, it looks terrible on the Steam Deck. Probably, but I grew up playing Atari, so for me, like, I don't really like if it runs, I'm like, and I can play it. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, yeah. Yeah. So for me,
it's a video
it was
game
fine.
that mostly runs on S and Steam Deck. So yeah.
Same Z's over here because I played it on PC, and I grew up never having the best PC that could run everything at the best quality. So I'm also forgiving where I'm like, it runs. What do you mean? What's the problem? Especially on PC, I'm like, I will accept it. It ran well. I don't know, like, some choppy frames here and there. There was a weird thing where the menu where sometimes you just couldn't see the options at all. They all whited out.
Oh, good.
And then you had to like exit out and go back in. It only happened a couple times. But it ran okay on PC through Steam.
Love it. This is a weird combination of different gameplay elements. I mentioned it's got some hack and slash action adventure stuff, and surprise, also it's an RTS, and then it's wrapped in this like heavy metal cocoon of both characters, likenesses, and worlds. Roger, do you maybe want to start and talk about like the gameplay at a high level and what players should expect?
Sure. So, I mean, I think it tries to be an open world, right? And I mean, it is an open world. I shouldn't say it tries. It is an open world. You can go to different missions. It does have that, like you said, the hack and slash abilities. There are moments where you do have to do some rhythm games, but it's not too much, but there are rhythm parts in it. There is some cool listen, there are some cool moments where the music's playing and you feel like a badass, right? Can I swear on this podcast, by the way? Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay,
we'll just bleep it out.
Okay. And so for the most part, like, it feels like a mashup of all these different things that it's trying to do, and it doesn't feel like it ever connects with any of the things perfectly, right? Like the hack and slash pieces just feel kind of janky a little bit.
Basic.
Yeah, very basic and very boring. Like, I think that's the thing. That's the thing that I'm going to say about this game. Like, every aspect of this game was really boring. I mean, even the parts where the music kicked in and I feel like, oh man, this is it. I'm going to kick some ass now. And then all of a sudden it's just like, it cuts to, like, it starts like really getting into the music and then it cuts to a cutscene. And you're like, what was that? That was lame. I just didn't feel like it ever landed on anything perfectly. I guess I guess it's just, it tries to be too many things and it doesn't succeed at any of them.
I completely agree. I feel like every aspect of the gameplay of this game is like 70% of the way there in development, and they were like, there needed to be additional elements, like you said, just things connect better. Your melee attacks, it's like I'm just clicking. I'm clicking, and every now and then I do a little power slam to clear a crowd, and then I'm clicking, and we're not developing anything far enough.
Yes.
The RTS aspect, we're close. I honestly think we're close.
Yeah, that's the best part of the game.
Yeah.
It is, and it's clunky as can be, and but I appreciate that it's following perfectly along classic RTS rules. You have your base, you have your little supply things that are generating resources for you that you use to get your units out. You do have to like strategize which units you're building a little bit depending on what you're fighting against. And then they add in the element of you're on the field, like your character is on the field directing it. And that could have been really cool, where you are the general. And in certain situations, you are a little overpowered and you can like clear out a crowd of the lower enemies. But then if it's just you and you go into the tougher guys, you will get killed in literally 2 seconds. Yeah. So you are the general. You're like, I can do stuff, but I do need my team. I'll get killed right away if it's just me. But like, again, it just doesn't quite get there. I'd really rather they really focus on the RTS aspect and or just one of them. Like you said, we're doing too many things. Just pick a lane and go with it. And it's kind of Double Fine's issue. Honestly, I think throughout all of their games, the shining points are writing and characters typically, and the gameplay is always not quite where you would like it to be. So this feels like the early iteration, like an early Double Fine game where the gameplay is even more not quite there. Like Psychonauts feels sometimes like a clunky PS2 game. This is far clunkier.
And we haven't even talked about the driving really also, because there's driving in this one, because the open world, to your point, Roger, is enormous, to the point where I'm like, why did we do this? Did we do this so we could show off our open world tech that I don't think Double Fine has ever had open world tech in another game of theirs. But the driving itself is not interesting, and there's almost nothing in the world to interact with. Sure, can you run over a heavy metal sheep or goat every once in a while? Sure. But it's also so uninteresting.
Yes.
To your point, I think the best parts are story. I would also say the RTS part, but everything else is a 7 out of 10, which you said, but it all adds up to less than the sum of its parts.
Yes.
Which is disappointing given their pedigree.
I mean, did you both think that the world was just dull and boring to like travel around in?
Yes. It develops over time and it changes, but not enough. There are little details too. Like there's little things, heavy metal things that are cool that I looked at that I'm like, oh, the tops of the trees have like little knives sticking out of them. Like there's attention to detail and stuff. But like you said, just driving around the world, there's nothing going on. I don't hate the driving that much because it's so basic that I can just zip around and like fling my car around. And there's like Judas Priest playing, which is wild to me. We'll have to talk about the soundtrack later. But and I will say, they do have waypointing built in. With the turning signal on your car, like Ghost of Tsushima, eat your heart out. We have a turning signal on a car. I wasn't mad. I was like, oh, look at you. We don't have a little arrow at
like
the top
the
of the
Getaway
screen.
on PlayStation 2, if you remember that one. That also had turn signals.
That's true. That's true.
Fancy. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of had fun with how simplistic it was for that part. But you're right. The world is just kind of, it's just there.
Crab.
I'm just going from place to place. To move it forward.
I thought the whole time that they could have had a original Psychonauts world where you have a hub world, sure, but then it kind of breaks off into smaller worlds. I'm like, why did we not do that?
Yeah.
Because then you could take all this stuff that I'm sure you Control-C, Control-V through the whole environment and just put it in a much smaller environment, which would have also probably helped with the performance of the game. Because I know that you guys mentioned the choppiness, but I felt like a lot of the time, having played it on S, and I'm sure you say this about PC, but the game performance, especially in the open world, was not great.
Yeah.
And I know that it's a 15-year-old game, and it's a 360 title, and I think it's like a mid-cycle, 360 PS3 title, but it did not, like, performance on it wasn't great.
Yeah. I also think just streamlining everything would have made it feel less detached from each other. Instead of driving up to the character that trigger that you talk to enter into the next mission, I'm like, no, just streamline it. Let's just go forward, front to back. Tell me a story. These are the missions. Like, you don't need the open world. The open world doesn't do anything. I could drive the Deuce, which is the name of the car, in missions. I don't have to drive around an open world that doesn't have anything in it.
Yeah. And the other thing, and I don't know, maybe this is too deep at this point, but I also didn't like, there was boss battles. I didn't like any of the boss battles.
Yep, same.
They were boring. And some of them are just like, really? This is what I'm doing here? Like, this doesn't make a lot of sense, but okay, I guess this is what hurts the boss. And then also, like, all the missions just felt the same. Like, there was nothing unique about anything in this game. It just felt very, like, it felt like I was eating plain potatoes. Do I like potatoes? Sure. But I like to have some salt, maybe some sour cream, and maybe butter, and a little bit of pepper. It just is eating plain potatoes.
I don't know why when you said that, I thought potatoes on a plane, like the potatoes they served you on a plane. And I was like, oh no, you meant just simple potatoes with nothing on them. That makes more sense.
Yeah. Plain potatoes.
It really felt like a proof of concept that they were then forced to make into a game. And I don't know, maybe we'll include some of these articles from Eurogamer, but it sounds like development on this game was, according to Bobby Kotick, which we'll take with a grain of salt, speaking of potatoes, was troubled. And I'll share a quote that he had about Tim and about the studio, saying, he's late, he's missed every milestone, he's overspent the budget, and it doesn't seem like a good game. We're going to cancel it. And do you know what? That seemed like a sensible thing to do, and it turns out he was late, he missed every milestone, and the game was not a particularly good game.
I mean, if you've seen Psych Odyssey, you know that's probably true. He was probably late on every deadline.
Yeah.
Not
Which the game might have come together with another year or 2 years, or a sequel to this game might really come together.
I would love a sequel to this game.
Would you?
I think so. I don't know.
Give
Why
me
not?
your pitch on a sequel. How is it different?
This game, but better. I like aspects of this game. I'm like, yeah, we have heavy metal. We have these. You can do wacky stuff with characters. They could have gone wackier than they did, to be honest. I don't know. Figure out your gameplay. Like, why wouldn't I want a sequel to this game? A better game, please.
Because I mean, the voice cast they got for this one was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Just a few of the voices that we got. We obviously got Jack Black, who we mentioned. We got Jennifer Hale, who sort of plays the female lead in the game. We got Lemmy Kilmister, Ozzy Osbourne, and the villain ends up being Tim Curry, which is. As a non-heavy metal fan, that was the thing I was the biggest fan of. I'm like, yo, that's Tim Curry. What the hell?
So Lemmy didn't do anything for you?
Lemmy did not. I'm like, oh, cool, Lemmy's here. Yeah. Ozzy did more for me, even though you know that Ozzy showed up for like one day.
Yeah.
And that they literally made him, he was like the item guy.
Yeah, he's the
and
vendor.
They got him for one day.
Yes.
He's the vendor. They got him for one day and they used the shit out of him, I'm sure.
Yeah. Can I just step back to the project management piece, though?
Please.
Yeah.
Because so this is very nerdy, but I'm very much into project management, right? And it's super nerdy. But one thing I will say that I think really frustrates me when I hear like people miss deadlines, like who created those deadlines?
That's
right?
true. They could have been absurd deadlines. You're right.
Yeah. I hate this so much. I cannot tell you. So here, if anybody is listening to this podcast and you're like, I'm a project manager, I manage projects. Okay, let me tell you how you manage projects. Okay, I'm going to tell you this right now. You understand what your velocity is. Okay, you understand how much your team can do, and then based on that, then you forecast when something is going to get done. You don't put lines in the sand and say this is when things are going to get done, because that never works ever in the history of project management. That has never ever worked. All right, listen to your damn teams and listen to how much work they can get done per sprint, and then understand their velocity, and then look at your backlog. And if they can do, let's say they can do 50 points a sprint, and you have 500 points of work, guess what? It's going to take you 10 sprints to do it. That's how you forecast work. So that frustrates me when I hear, missed deadlines. Whose deadlines? Who set those up, right? Because I guarantee you the team was probably not driving those deadlines. The team was not saying, this is when we were going to get things done. I understand there's budgets and shit like that. I get that. But when you actually understand your backlog and what you're building, and you I don't know, call pre-planning before you go into anything, and you actually understand a plan, then, sorry, I dropped the F-bomb there. You're going to have to cut that out. Then you can come up with a better product. It just frustrates me when I hear shit from people that just like, they missed deadlines. Well, you know what? You probably didn't come up with a very good plan to begin with. It was probably just.
But Roger, I have a very important comment to make. But the shareholders, though.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I forgot. Anyway, it just frustrates me because I can't tell you how many times I've had to have these conversations over and over again. In my old days, I don't work in IT anymore, but when I worked in IT, how many times I've had to have these conversations? Like, your deadlines are not the same as my forecast, okay? If you listen to my forecast, I can tell you when we get things done. Your deadlines don't meet with my forecast, all right? So, sorry, I'm done.
In the defense of Tim Schafer and Double Fine, we love.
Absolutely. So on back of that, so voice cast, right? Okay, I was shocked by how, honestly, this tells me how much, there's the connection to Jack Black, which I think Tim's connection to Jack Black, which they are just like buddies, man. They are besties.
They're pals.
I'm pretty sure Jack Black then is the route that ropes in all of these like heavy metal like stars from over the years. Like we said, you've got Lemmy from Motorhead, you've got Ozzy Osbourne, you've got Rob Halford. I'm like, Rob Halford's here?
As General Linewhite, yeah.
Yes, and then you're driving around, and then the music's kicking in, and I'm like, oh, they've got like deep cuts. Like we've got like Mastodon and Anvil, and like those are like your deep cut heavy metal bands that like heavy metal bands like. And then I'm like, oh, and then Electric Eye by Judas Priest kicks in, and I was like, whoa, that was a moment where I was like, oh, we've got all of that. And that's part of why I'm like, Tim got his dream game as far as the music that he loves and the rock stars that he loves, and then the gameplay just did not come up with it. But he was like, but I get to make a heavy metal game, and I got all these people here, and it's amazing. Like, I can just picture him just geeking out when Rob Halford agrees to be in his game, like, or Ozzy Osbourne. Like, what? Like, that had to be just, I would love to have had a documentary footage of Tim Schafer realizing that he got those people, because I'm sure he freaked out.
Yeah. I freaked out. I'm sorry. Do you want to go? No? Okay. I was going to say, I freaked out right in the beginning when you have Jack Black, like this live footage of Jack like saying, hey, come with me. I'm going to show you a secret place in this record store. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
This is so cool. This is such a great intro, right? And he's like, oh, I know it's here somewhere. Oh, here it is. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so, like, I love this so much. I was like, I love Jack Black. I think he's so funny, and just, you know, he's not like your typical star, right? Like,
he seems like a lovely person.
He seems like a lovely person, and just that whole intro felt very just genuine Jack Black, right? And I loved that. And then
I'm like that with the Elijah Wood clip from the Broken Age documentary, where he voices the main character, and there's a clip from the documentary that I make sure to watch at least once a year, where he's in his voice session and he just brings Rice Krispie treats for everyone, and he just gets in the booth and has like a Ziploc bag of Rice Krispie treats and goes, I brought Rice Krispie treats. So I guess what I want is more Double Fine documentaries, and so I hope Microsoft keeps letting them do that, because that would be cool.
Yeah,
I feel like they won't.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I feel like they won't.
Yeah,
but a boy can dream.
Yeah,
just like Tim Schafer did in this game.
The story, did anything really connect with you guys? Because I was just like, yeah, the story's happening. Lord Devigulus, I think.
I actually thought the beginning was really great, right? You have Jack Black, who is this roadie.
Yes.
Right, his character's this roadie, and he's all about, like, making metal. And then this band goes up, and they're, like, you know, they're like pop, right? They're like a pop boy band. And but he wants it to be, like, metal, right? And he has, like, all this contraptions and stuff like that, and but he's the roadie, right? He's the roadie. He's not out on stage, but he knows more about music than these like this boy band brought together, right? Does. And then, can I spoil it here? I mean, it's right in the beginning.
Yes. We are going to spoil the story of Brutal Legend. So if you're interested in it, please go to the end of the show or come back when you've played the game. Roger, go ahead.
Well, I mean, this is right in the beginning, but he dies, right? So part of his starts falling apart. He goes out there to save the day, and the set falls on him, and then he wakes up in this different world, and he's like, what is happening here, right? So I actually thought the setup was really cool, and just like this unsung hero in his world becomes a hero in this, you know, world where, like, humans are trying to fight against these demon god type things, right? So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And his belt buckle's rad.
Yeah.
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 He's got a lot of rad things.
He does.
I agree. I liked the setup. It felt like there was a lot of promise between the Jack Black intro and then the setup, and then even just like some of the early stuff when you at first mission or something, you like free up some guys and they are really into heavy metal, so they bang their heads a lot, so their entire back is extremely overdeveloped with muscle to the point that it's curved over, and they're just these hunchback monstrosities. And I'm like, okay, this is clever. Like, we're using heavy metal and the culture of it and like putting that Double Fine spin on it. And then I don't know, it just, the main story didn't really do much for me.
Yeah.
And that, like, the little details were cool, but it's like the same thing with everything else. Like, it just didn't quite come together in a way that was interesting enough, I guess. Like, I wasn't like, what's going to happen? Like, or I didn't care that much about these characters.
Yeah.
When the pretty boy hair metal guy died, I was like, oh, I was surprised. I was like, okay, we got some stuff happening. But I don't know. It wasn't quite there.
I think one of the things that was interesting for me was I think one of the misses that they had was in the beginning you have Jack Black showing you to the secret place with the secret secret record, right? And he opens it up. Like, why wouldn't each level be like a track in that album?
Oh, yep. You're right.
Like, it felt like, again, that was a missed moment, right?
It could be a power ballad, and then there could be like a thrash one. Yes. And oh my God, you could have covered all of like heavy metal and the different subgenres.
Yes.
And
yes. It seemed like a huge miss, right? Because it was like they wanted to tell the story, but the beginning didn't really tie into it, right? It should have been a ballad about this roadie, right? And each track should have been like a heavy metal ballad, like a hair ballad, like all these different types of music, right? And would tie it into his overall story, his overall arch, and it was missed.
Do you feel like you're the only person in your circle who wants to go deep about video games regularly?
We were like that too, until now.
Welcome to Crossplay Conversations, the brand new bi-weekly topical video game podcast from Luke Lewis,
Joseph Hooper,
and Jacob McCoy.
With many years of breaking it down separately on shows like the Left Behind Game Club, Player Podcast, and Lukewarm Games, the gang is finally coming together to publish their gaming group chat in audio form every other week.
Expect roundtable reviews of the latest games, profiles of upcoming indies, and insightful conversations about essential topics in the video game industry. All with a mostly positive, insightful, and fun style.
Help us out by subscribing on your podcast platform of choice to get the first episodes delivered straight to your feed.
And follow us on Twitter at Crossplay Convos for updates about the show.
Cheers and happy gaming.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds,
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there. So we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
Roger, you're a nerd about project management. I'm a nerd about licensing.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I would have loved to be in the room with Electronic Arts to figure out, like, was it a licensing thing, actually? Like, was it actually the biggest challenge just to get the music on the soundtrack?
Yeah.
And anything that, like, resembled anything unique or cool, the labels would have been like, wait, so you wanna take our song and have Jack Black cover it? That sounds like a joke. We don't want to do that. I would pay and kill to be in the room to talk licensing. Your boy loves contracts. What can I say?
Yeah. Well, but there was a missed opportunity there, too. Like, just have Tenacious D do a bunch of the songs.
Because Kyle Gass is in this game also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did.
Who does
so
he
many
play?
He plays Cage the Cannoneer.
I'm Googling.
The little
I
cannoneer man
missed
who's in the seat.
Yeah. Yeah. It just seems like a lot of, again, it seems like it was a hodgepodge of just different ideas that didn't ever come together, right? And even in the beginning, I'm like, why am I showing this record? Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, I don't get it. It doesn't really tie into the game at all.
I think a lot about how they had 3 titles back in the day. I think it was Stacking, Costume Quest, and Iron Brigade that we're thinking like 2000, mid-2000s, Xbox Live Arcade, really like the first indie games who had a reasonable scopes. I think a lot about how this game and how if it had a reasonable scope of 4 or 5 hours, cut the open world, would this have been a better game? I think the answer is yes.
I think if you cut the open world, I think the open world is the crippler.
Yeah.
Because you don't get, like, there had to have been a lot of time spent on it, and I don't think that it gives you much. They sprinkle through these little, like, locations where if you play a certain solo, the rhythm game that you talked about earlier, you have, like, these abilities. Some of them do damage. Some of them open up a door. Like, it's very, it's all over the place. But yeah, they have those sprinkled around, but you just kind of drive right past them because they're not that interesting to do. Like I didn't seek them out, which I thought I would at first. I was like, oh, those are around, I'm going to find them. And then I was like, no, I don't care about finding any of them. So we spent all this time on that when it's like, yeah, that all that time and effort could have been poured into the story and the game, and then like a core gameplay mechanic that gets really good. So no, I think the open world is probably what really makes the game suffer more than anything.
Yeah, because I'm a completionist. Well, I'm not as much as my wife, but I am a completionist. I like to, when I play open worlds, I like to try to collect all or do all the things in an area before moving on. That's why it's taking forever to get through Indiana Jones and the Great Circle for me right now. But this game, I just was like, I don't care enough. None of this stuff feels unique enough to actually try to even understand, like, any of the side missions. I don't care. I just want to try to get through this game. I'll even admit this right now. I didn't get through this game. I quit after a couple hours. I was just like, I can't. I'm a believer. I'm a believer that if you're playing a game and you're
a believer, right? Yes, you love Justin Bieber. Understood. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a believer. No, I believe that if you don't like a game, don't force yourself to play it. And I just couldn't. I'm sorry, Jake. I'm sorry. I just couldn't play this game anymore.
That's okay. We started this, when we started this podcast, and this is a bit of a peek behind the curtain for people who have been with us for a very long time. For the first like 30 or 40 episodes, if we picked it, all three of us, Mike, Mo, and I, would finish every single game. And I think that led to, in some cases, some podcasts that are almost unbearable to listen to because one or two people hate them. And so they can't hide their feelings, and it's like kind of a lame conversation, and it's not like, one person loved it and one person hated it, so like there's a good banter. It's mostly just like, yeah, it wasn't very good, and then we somehow keep talking for 50 more minutes. But that's not what's happening here, because like I think we see the promise in it, and we know that there's a better version of this game in it. It's just not this, which is why, Katie, going back to your comment, Brutal Legend 2 is something that's been talked about for a very long time. I don't want it, but I wouldn't, like, that's not the first thing I'd want from Double Fine to do, but if they did it, I wouldn't be unhappy.
I would be really excited, come to think of it. I would be pumped. I don't know if it would be good or not, but I would be really excited to see what it was. I don't think that that's ever going to happen now that they are under the Microsoft umbrella. I don't think that they're ever going to say, yeah, make Brutal Legend 2, because I don't think
also
it has...
EA probably owns the license to Brutal Legend also, right?
Too,
which is a complicating factor. Which
I don't know
if some of those rights reverted back to Double Fine, because Double Fine has the PC publishing, I believe, for that. So maybe there's a weird thing where it's, EA owns some part of the license or the IP, but then Double Fine also owns some of their IP, because I know that they bought some of them back. It's a weird... IP's weird.
Yeah, I can't see it happening now, but like I said, I would be pumped. You could do weird stuff with like the modernization of like rock music, and you could do a whole thing of new music genres, and like, I don't know, you could do so many things. And Tim Schafer is very creative as far as just his ideas and like what he wants to put in games, and he encourages his team to be like, what's some crazy stuff that we can do that's really, really creative. And I feel like they're better at that now, of like working outside the box and focusing maybe on gameplay a bit more, and like making things a little bit more polished than they used to. So, but
Psychonauts 2 is a phenomenal game.
I'm sure it is.
So if they have some of the polish for that.
This game was, like I said, it's a product of its time. I mean, it was a different time back. I mean, it sounds weird, but like almost 20 years ago, you can't say the same things they say now. Like, there was just a lot of like kind of sexist stuff in this game, like a little bit, like, and no, not just a little bit. There was sexist stuff in this game, and it's, I don't know. I was playing it. I'm like, this doesn't sit well with me, like it even. I mean, you could say, well, in 2009, like that was fine to see the kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't know, was it though? Like, there's a lot of things I don't think
it was never funny. It was never good or funny.
Yeah.
But I do just kind of like ignore it. Like, it doesn't affect me in any way where I'm like, oh yeah, I see this for a product of his time. And also an adult Tim Schafer, but I'm like, no, this is his 17-year-old heavy metal fever dream, and like rock babes are a thing. So we're doing that. And whereas also, that's another thing, I feel like we would be, just the writing would be a lot better today than it was then.
But that's the thing. They cannot come up with this game today. Like, they could not come up with that same kind of tone. It might actually be funny. It might actually be funny if Jack Black's character comes back. Yeah, and they're like, you can't say that now. And he's like, oh, really? Like, but like right away in the beginning, he's like, whoa, check out this babe. And I was just like, really? This is what this game's going to be? I feel like maybe it's because I'm an old guy. I'm old. All right. I'm old. I have kids. It just really turned me off. And
it's just played out, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just lame and played out.
It's lame.
Nothing.
It's lame. And I think you're right. It was written from like a 17-year-old mind, and I'm just not 17 anymore, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like, I'll say this. I loved No Doubt when I was in college. I can't listen to No Doubt now because the problems that Gwen Stefani had, like as an adult, like as a grown older person, like, oh my gosh, this is high school problems, right? It's just kind of the same thing. I'm just like, this is high school humor, and I'm beyond high school humor at this point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, isn't heavy metal like a deeply misogynistic genre of music?
Historically, yes.
Historically, historically, I agree.
There are breakthrough. There are some there are some front women now. There is little chips into it. But yes, historically, absolutely, yes, a pretty misogynistic genre.
Mm-hmm.
Still means I didn't enjoy it. I still didn't enjoy it.
I didn't hate my time. Like I
didn't hate it.
I wasn't like, oh man, I have to fire up Brutal Legend again. Like I was like, oh, I'll play Brutal Legend for like an hour or two. It's like easy and like it's pretty chill. I like, I don't know, the voice acting. I'm like, what am I gonna? There was diminishing returns as I went, of course. Yeah. But then by the end, I'm like, well, there's only like an hour left, so like that's fine. It bothered me less late because it's not a very long game. But especially the first half, I was like, sure, this is like kind of dumb fun, even if it's not very good.
Can I ask, because I actually liked the RTS part of it. I didn't. I kind of liked it. On average, how long do you think your battles would take? And did you have to restart them? Because I found that the economy of it is that you collect fans, I think they're called, and they're essentially just like ghosts that spawn from a tower, and that's how you essentially buy your units. And it's not like a large economy. It's not something like a traditional RTS like an Age of Empires or whatever where you're getting tons of fans. It is really limited by the technology of the time on console, I think, where you get 1,000 fans, and out of that 1,000 fans, you can buy a total of 40 units or 60 units, and really the units are in packages of like usually 4, and so really like you're only controlling maybe 10 to 12 individual sets of units, and even with that simplicity, especially on a controller, I found myself like kind of enjoying it, where there's enough units where it kind of, there is a bit of a strategy layer in there, and then the commanders, as we've mentioned, come down on the field. So sometimes you actually have to, your character Jack Black in the game can fly up and get like wings and sort of survey the entire field, which is fairly large. But at times you can go down on the field and like fight in hand-to-hand combat the enemy commander, and then again come back up and then control your units going after the towers. There was a fun amount of strategy there. There was just enough. If there was any less, I would have been like, this game's maybe a little bit dull and boring.
You needed to be able to get into the field and run around and attack things and then fly up and zip around, because otherwise you're right, it'd be like far too simplistic. It's that element that makes it like kind of quick and frenetic, where you're like, oh no, there's trouble over there, I'm gonna quickly fly over there, take care of that problem. Oh crap, I can build more units, I gotta do that. And then to command your units, you do have to be near them, which I kind of like you can't just be like, units from across the field, go attack this thing. Like you kind of have to be close to them to shout at them to go over there. So now you're flying over there to get them there, to attack the thing you want to. So there is enough strategy where you're splitting your focus, and you can't split it one way or the other too much. You have to stay pretty balanced. So there's a nugget there where I enjoyed it. I think probably like half of them I died, like my base was destroyed, or I just gave up like once, maybe twice. And then if I beat it, they probably took me like, depending on the size of the battle, like 5 to 10 minutes, probably around there. 10 minutes. Maybe.
They get progressively longer as you go. Yeah, like the end battle could take you, if there is, because I found sometimes that maybe it's because I'm bad at video games. There was a kind of a push and pull where essentially like control is over towers, and let's say there's 4, 6, 8 towers on the field. As you collect more towers, you get more economy, so you can kind of steamroll your enemy, but it can kind of go back and forth. Some of the battles, and maybe because I'm bad, went kind of back and forth, and at least twice I had to restart the battles because I got defeated. Maybe it's because I'm bad at games. The difficulty seemed just right.
Yes.
I don't know if you thought it was too easy, Katie.
I don't think it was too easy because you could feel it shifting, and you're like, oh no, I'm like losing control of this. And then you could get it back maybe. Like it was like, oh, if it's starting to turn against you, like you might be able to get it back. It's not like, well, if I do this, and this, I'm gonna win. Like I'll turn the tides and get it back. It was like, oh, I might be able to. If I do everything perfectly, I might be able to get it back. And that's kind of a sweet spot where it's like, no, you have to execute things properly, and then you can do it. There's no like little quick hack to it. So yeah, I don't know. I liked it. Like I said, it's still a little clunky, and like the combat's not great. So when you are in the field, it's not anything super interesting, but I don't know. I was entertained enough. It was the most like engaged I am in the whole game, right? Like I am focused and engaged during those RTS battles.
Yeah. See, I think I don't know. I think I'm sorry. I'm such a Debbie Downer on this game.
No, opinions. Let's go.
I just it was again, I think a product of, I just don't feel like it connected well to the rest of the game, and nothing was done stellar. So just all kind of felt, like, and it was weird to me because I just feel like it didn't know its identity. And I was like, what is this game? Like, I don't know. It was okay. I tried. I did give it a college try. I played a couple hours, and then I was like, I'm done with this game. But I guess out of all the elements, I guess the RTS piece was the best part. But still, even that, I was just like, this is okay. This is fine, right? But it's not. But I think it's partly it's because I don't know what I was playing. Am I playing a hack and slash? Am I playing a rhythm game? Am I playing an RTS game? What am I playing here? What is this game? What is this supposed to be? And I think that just left such a bad taste in my mouth that, again, all the pieces were okay. They weren't great, but the sum of all of that, because none of that was great, just felt like, what is this game? So, and honestly, I just kind of was like, I just want to get this part over with.
Yeah. I feel like I could see the list of things that the team was like, oh, it'd be cool if we had this in the game. It'd be cool if we had this in the game. It'd be cool if we had this in the game. And then all those things were put into the game, but the reasoning and the thought behind it wasn't quite there. Or maybe, like you said, Jacob, maybe just didn't get enough time to like develop things enough the way they wanted to. Who knows? But yeah, like the solos. The little solo ability things. It was like, that seems like a thing that they were like, oh, it'd be cool if you could do solos. What do we do with the solos? Well, they do a bunch of different things. Some of them do attacks. What if they trigger things in the environment? That'd be cool. And what if we did this? And like, and then those things get put in, but like you said, it doesn't connect together in a satisfying way.
Yeah. You also have like range attacks too, but it is all just basically the same. Like, sure, there's a lightning bolt that you can use, but also you can power it up. There's multiplayer in this game we haven't even mentioned, which is such like a mid.
Really?
Yeah,
I forgot about
mid 2000s. Remember when every game had to have like an online part, and they had multiplayer mode or like an online pass? Like, again, it is just the RTS piece where you're fighting 1 to 4 players. A fun fact is every Rocktober 13th, the release date of this game, Tim Schafer plays with people from the community because there is one achievement that is tied to you must play Tim Schafer or someone that has played Tim Schafer,
or someone who has played Tim Schafer.
Oh,
so
that's
Tim
fun.
Schafer is like the originator. He holds the trophy, and you have to beat him to get the trophy, to get the achievement. And then if you've done it, well, then you also have a trophy. So then if someone beats you, they also get the achievement, which is a very cool little waterfall effect of achievements.
That's cool.
And the fact that it's attached to Tim Schafer and that he is so like invested in like heavy metal and like he loves this type of thing. So that's the kind of thing, like everything's connected in. That's what I want through the rest of the game. Do that.
It makes me think that there was several different smaller teams working on each piece of the game, right? But they didn't talk to each other, and they didn't really figure out how to make all this connect really well. Like, it just seems like there was not a lot of how do these, because there's other aspects too. There's like a little bit of RPG in this too, where you collect different like guitars and you know, which would have been cool.
There's like combos that you can use that you have to collect from Ozzy Osbourne's character.
Yes.
I think
there's a lot to this game.
I think it was like perhaps too ambitious for what the team was capable of doing at the time.
Yeah.
They were like, we're going to aim big, and then maybe weren't ready.
And maybe if there's a second one.
See? If we come back around to it, it would be better. It would have to be better.
It would
right?
have to be better. It would have to be. If they were given the time and the resources, right, to actually, and the technology is probably better now that they can actually, and if they had some overall connecting thing, and I think that's my biggest problem is that everything felt so disconnected that this game just felt lost throughout the whole, like I felt lost to this game. And I really think, like, since the beginning, like, why am I opening up this record? It has nothing to do with this game. Mm-hmm. Unless I'm wrong, and you guys are like, no, you missed this part where the record is really tied to this whole game.
No.
Okay.
You didn't miss anything.
No,
it's a lot of the same thing, just more of it or bigger of it.
Because even the story itself is relatively basic, where Ophelia, the world, his father, time travel to the future. Ophelia went in the Dark River, and then she became bad, and then we had to beat Divigulus, and they did, and decapitated him, and that's it. And she had one single black tear at the end of the game, and that's the story of Brutal Legend.
You did miss Jack Black saying, decapitation! And holding the note while in slow motion blood is splattering on his face. And that I was like, that was really good. I wish there was also a miss of that. Like in the middle of the game, I felt like the cleverness kind of lulled, where I'm like, we don't have the early excitement that I have, that I used to have.
And I thought it was so charming at the beginning to be like, hey, this game's going to do some swears. Are you good with the swears?
That's
I love that.
Yeah.
I think they asked, are you good with the swears and are you good with the gore, right? Where those were the two things that they asked about, right?
And it's presented to you like mid cutscene, like something's happening, and it like
right
Jack
before
Black
he's about to drop an
to
F-bomb.
swear or about to do violence, and it's like, do you want this? And I'm like, oh, good. Instead of like putting it in the menu, I'm like, no, this is fun. Do it in a fun way.
And that was like right again. If it felt like, oh, this is really cool. Like they're gonna do something, like setting up for something like this. If this is how the rest of the game's gonna be, where it's just like funny moments like this, where like you focused on something as simple as like, do you want swearing or not? Do you want gore or not? Right? And then they just kind of, okay, well, we'll just we did that, and we'll just forget about the fun part about it. I don't know. It just didn't feel fun to me. I guess that's the whole thing. I did turn off the swearing because I figured my kids probably walking in and out, and I thought I can hide the screen, but the whole language thing is a little bit harder, right?
You don't know when they're going to drop an F.
That's right. So I kept the gore, but I got rid of the swearing, which was still funny. I mean, like, just hearing them bleeping out the words was funny enough, I thought, so.
The thought did occur to me that I'm like, oh, bleeps might be funny, but I'm like, no. Give me the curse.
You know what made me bleep was the escort missions where you had to drive around like the big old van in your car. That was the worst part of this game. I despise every time I had to do it. I was like, oh no, another escort mission where I have to shoot some other cars and baddies and drop some bombs. It's not fun at all.
And there was a couple of missions too, right, where there was timed, and you had the time, and I would turn the wrong way because, again, there's nothing in this world to tell me where to turn.
No.
There's nothing important in this world. Everything looks the same. And I was like, where's the path I'm supposed to turn here? I know my map shows me this, but I don't know where I'm supposed to turn. I was very frustrated.
You just got to hit back a bunch of times and look at the menu every 12 seconds.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it was annoying. It was super annoying.
Fun question for y'all, and sorry to go video game trivia on you, but if you had to guess the Metacritic score for this game on Xbox 360 back in the day, how do you think this fared on Metacritic?
Oh, that's tough. 68.
Roger?
What do you want to say, like 42 or something?
No, I want to say 69.
Hey.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
Nice.
I would say 73.
On Xbox 360, this game has an 82 on Metacritic based on 88 critics.
Wow.
What?
And the user score is 7.7.
Really?
I could understand the user score more so than the critic score.
Mm-hmm. And some of those user scores, like 3 of the reviews are from 2024, and they're all 8 to 10. So, who knows? Maybe we're wrong. If you think we're wrong, find us on Twitter, Left Behind Club. Find us on Blue Sky, Left Behind Game Club. Find us in our Discord, leftbehindgame.club/Discord, and sound off about Brutal Legend. Any final thoughts, y'all, about Brutal Legend before we shut this one down?
I mean, I think I'm on the same page that I would like to see a sequel, because I do think there is something here. I think that the sequel could be funny, though, as in lean into Jack Black kind of being from like 20 years ago, right? Yeah. His character being 20 years ago. And people are like, no, you can't. And then, maybe he has a turn of heart, or maybe he grows up. I don't know. But I also think they need to determine, what is this game about? Is this an RTS? Is this a hack and slash? Is this a rhythm game? Is this an escort game? Is this an open world game? What do you want to do with this game? And put some kind of like overarching story behind it. And I still like the idea of having each track being a world or a level and telling this ballad of this character. So that's just my thought.
Also, would love a sequel. One of the big reasons is because there are little parts within this game where you can feel that the person making it really loves the themes and like the stuff that they're playing with. Like, you can tell that Tim Schafer loves heavy metal. Like, you do not have to have watched Psych Odyssey and seen him just like sitting at his desk rocking out to whatever, Mastodon or something. Like, you feel it. You're like, somebody behind this really loves this thing. And then just somewhere in the development, things went awry. What was the cause? I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know. But there's a nugget there that I'm like, you people love this thing. So like, I would like to see you get another crack at it and see what you can make of it. Because I think it would be a lot more intriguing.
Yeah, it's not the first Double Fine game I'd recommend. I don't even know if I'd recommend it to most folks. But if you're like a big Double Fine fan and you want to complete the catalog, have a try. I mean, it's on Xbox Game Pass, so for those folks who have that subscription, it's free. I'm sure you might even have it if you have a Humble or, have donated to charity before, because those keys are out there. Maybe a fun game to taste if you can get it for cheap. And like you guys, I wouldn't mind a sequel to this.
Yeah. I'm not mad that I played it.
A 2024. Yeah. It's fine. Not the worst game I played. Not the best game I played. Just another video game.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to do it for this evening's show. So with that, Roger, first off, thank you for coming on the program. If folks want to find you on the internet, where can they do so? And maybe if you want to promote a piece of content where people can see the best of Roger and Squad and, fall in love with Gamerheads.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I don't think we have a best of, because that would require us to have a best of something.
Ooh, got him.
Yeah, so.
Cell phone.
No, but you can follow. We're not on Twitter anymore. So
Great.
You can find us on Blue Sky at gamerheadspodcast.com, which is really cool about Blue Sky is that if you have a domain, you can actually make that as your handle on Blue Sky. So that's where you can find us. You can find me on Twitter if you like at RogueLeader1976. Yes, I'm old. And if you want to listen to any of our podcasts, I mean, we're everywhere you get podcasts, but you can go to our website at gamerheadspodcast.com, where you can hear our shows, you can read reviews and read news and all the fun things. So thank you so much for giving me time. And can I just say one other thing, listeners? Do give this podcast a review, because this is a fantastic podcast. And the only way that podcasts can grow and other people can recognize them or find them is if you leave them reviews. So if this is the first time you listen to the podcast, well, listen to another show that I'm not on, because you'll get a better show. But secondly,
Roger.
If you've been listening to this show and you have not left a review, please do leave them a review, because they deserve it. And I will say this, none of us get paid any money to do these shows. We do this because we enjoy creating content. I know it's easy to say I get content for free and just keep giving me content for free, but support them just by giving a review.
A review is free.
A review is free. Just a little bit of your time. So
Your $5 of exposure are in the mail, Roger. Thank you for that. We mentioned it off the top. You can find all things Left Behind Game Club, leftbehindgame.club/Discord to join our Discord, find our website. We're on Twitter, Blue Sky. We mentioned that. You can find me on the internet at Jacob McCourt on everything except Blue Sky, where I am jacob.bsky.social, because your boy was among the first 500 users on that platform. Eat it.
Wow.
As far as content goes, if you're listening to this, we're about to start our Game of the Year conversations on my other podcast, Crossplay Conversations, and so tune in for that in January. But if you want to listen to something new right now on Crossplay, we just covered the Indie Game Awards and all of the nominees, winners, and fun stuff that happened there. So you can find that on all the podcasting services. Katie, where can you be found on the interwebs?
My social media saga continues. It's been a roller coaster, but I think I found a home.
She's like, I'm done. No, I'm not.
I found a home, and it is Blue Sky. So I am on Blue Sky. I am Lesperak, Lesperak. I still have a Twitter account, and so it's there. If someone wants to DM me there, that's fine. I'll get the notification and I'll see it. But I do my talking and my commenting on the Blue Skies these days, so that's where I'm at.
Can I promote a podcast that you were just on?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
You're
were
the
on
best. I'm
friend
terrible
of the show.
at promoting, so you do the promoting.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Let me self-promote for you.
Thank
You were on friend of the show, Dan, from The Greatest Story Ever Played. Y'all just did an episode about College Football 25, which, that's a sports game, but somehow y'all managed to talk about the sports game for an hour and 19 minutes.
Yeah.
So tune into that if you want to hear friend of the show, Dan and Katie, talk about football.
It was fun. We always talk narrative games, and this was just like, hey, let's talk about a football game.
Football!
It was fun. That's right.
Hey, what team did you take?
I took a variety of teams. My original team was Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, because that's a fun team to take all the way to the Natty. So that was the first team, and I have since moved my coaching staff to different programs, and also elevated them
to the Natty
National Championship.
Yeah,
Jacob,
National
you can do it.
I was like, Natty Light? That's a beer, right? We'll include links to that in the description if you want to find that. That's our show. And with that, my friends, that's one less game left behind.
Do you find yourself playing older games and wishing that there were new discussions about those games? Enter Tales from the Backlog. Hi, I'm Dave Jackson, and on each episode, I'm joined by a guest to break down those games that may be stuck in your ever-expanding backlog. Each episode looks at one game in depth, focusing on mechanics, story, music, and other aspects with no spoilers until a clearly marked spoiler wall in the middle. If you've played the game, go ahead and climb that spoiler wall and enjoy in-depth story discussions, and if not, jump out when we warn you and maybe go play that game for yourself. We have over 100 episodes in the feed, everything from Disco Elysium to Tunic to discussion episodes about how to get into horror games, and if games actually need to be fun, or if they have more to offer. I guarantee that there's something in there for everybody. Once again, that's Tales from the Backlog, available wherever your podcasts are found.